This year, experience the NHL playoffs your way. Want to watch a single? Do or die Game 7, a full week of heavy-hitting back-and-forth series. Then check out Sling's 1, 3, and 7-day passes. Watch the Chase for the Cup on ESPN and TNT, starting as low as $4.99. No long-term contracts or overpaying. Just live hockey at home or when you want it. Sling lets you do that. Visit sling.com to learn more.
This is Money Moves on VSiN, the sports betting network.
What up, fools? Welcome in. It is another wonderful edition of Money Moves here on the Vegas Stats and Information Network. Jonathan Von Tobel flying solo, but do not worry. Stormy Buonantony is going to join us live from Denver coming up in 15 minutes. Just checked into the hotel room. We have already cleared, and we are going to discuss the third game in 3 days for Storm there, as she will be rinkside for the Colorado Avalanche series. Looking forward to that. Had a good one yesterday between Minnesota and Dallas, and we'll zoom out on the NHL postseason as a whole. It was a good night, actually, in sports in general. Absolutely fantastic games in the association and the National Hockey League. We get to all of those. We'll spin it forward to what we have to talk about today for some of the playoff games that we have tonight. So let's not waste any more time and get right to what we usually do at the start of every show.
It's time for the top headlines and topics of the day. This is The Rundown.
Top topic of the day, accountability. Yes, we're going to hear for the first time from Mike Vrabel, who took the podium, a man filled with courage, and stood and faced us all, America, looked into the camera and took accountability for all of his actions. We're going to hear from Vrabel and what he had to say about the alleged tryst with him and NFL reporter Diana Rossini and all of the effects that it'll have for the New England Patriots as they start their offseason program and, of course, inch closer to the NFL draft, which is coming up on Thursday. That's probably the most important thing we're going to discuss today. But we'll also get into the hockey. As we mentioned, Stormy Buonantony is going to be with us coming up in a couple of minutes. She had a pretty good series that she has been sidelined for the last few days. We had a wild contest, as speaking of Stormy, as she likes to call them, the Soft Euros pull one off last night in double overtime against the Ottawa Senators. Carolina takes a 2-0 series lead there. Edmonton and Anaheim, a series that played out on paper like we expected in a high-scoring affair and more. So we'll get to all of the breakdown there between the National Hockey League, the games, and maybe some plays from Stormy on some of the games she does not need to know. But we'll start with just that. Need to know basis, and it's not a typo. We need to know what's going on with the knee of one Kevin Durant, and that is where we will begin our show today as the Houston Rockets are set to do battle with the Los Angeles Lakers in the headline affair tonight. We also have a pair of 2-7 matchups that we can discuss, I guess, at length. 76ers and Celtics, and, of course, Trailblazers and Spurs. But Rockets and Lakers is going to be front and center. Kevin Durant, questionable to play tonight, did participate in practice on Monday, had some footage that leaked out of some reporters that were able to watch Kevin Durant on Monday with some of the footage that we had out there practice. Did look fine, was just putting up some jumpers. Some of the footage you can kind of see some grimacing at the end here. You see the knee, the right knee there is, wrapped and ready to go. Don't know if he participated in full, but we do know he got some shots up. And we do know now, as some of the details have emerged on Durant, a dove for a loose ball during practice is what ultimately hurt the knee. But you see some of the grimacing there and how that's going to affect him as a player if he does indeed play tonight. Betting market seems to think that he's going to be out there and perhaps maybe at full strength. The number here up on VSiN.com, if you're watching, got that at Rockets, about a 4.5-point favorite, total of 207.5. You look market wide on the game today, a lot of fives out there with a total of 208. Remember, before he was scratched in that game against LA on Saturday, it was a 5-point spread with about a total of 208. So we're here pre-injury, at least in terms of the line. Now the question becomes whether or not he is, first off, going to play, and second, even if he does play today, do we really assume that he is at full strength? Again, watching some of that footage that we just played for you, seems to be grimacing a bit, probably dealing with some sort of pain. It seems to be a pain tolerance issue at this point for Kevin Durant. But either way, Rockets favored on the road and still favored in the series here. Minus 225 to win the series on the adjusted price. Series total games over 5.5 at minus 265. You see the series correct scores there. If you like the Lakers in 5, as many Lakers do, plus 950. Houston in the other exact results, Houston in 5 at plus 380. Houston in 6 at plus 195. The shortest odds there in terms of exact results in Houston in 7 at plus 425. So to look at this game, we can look back a little bit here because one of the things that Durant is obviously going to help is the half-court offense for the Houston Rockets. Now, We have discussed this before. Even with him on the floor, they're pretty average in terms of their offensive rating in the half court, like right around the 50th percentile in the possessions in which he plays out there against a set defense. But they were abysmal against the Los Angeles Lakers. Half court offensive rating of 83.7. The one thing they did well, though, was they crushed the Los Angeles Lakers on the offensive glass. 18 more offensive rebounds than the Los Angeles Lakers had, an offensive rebounding rate of 41.9%, and yet still points per putback, or you can put it as this, 100 points, or excuse me, putback points per 100 plays, essentially how many points you're generating on putback opportunities, kind of like an offensive rating, except for half court, just on putback attempts and offensive rebounds. 15th percentile, 81.3 according to Cleaning the Glass. So in other words, Houston wasn't really great in generating opportunities off of those offensive rebounds. Let's hear from JJ Redick, because he had a really good quote during media availability yesterday, talking about the types of offensive rebounds there are in these games and the magnitude of those offensive rebounds and where they come and when they come.
I think if guys have bodies on people and there's a three-point shot and there's a long rebound and you get caught on the low side because you were trying to box out, I think those things naturally happen. I think when they have guys in the dunker and you don't get a body on them and they're able to get tip-ins and paint shots or get fouled, there was a number of those. I think that's where they're more consequential, particularly against this team.
Yeah, and they didn't give up those consequential offensive rebounds. So despite the dribbling there, what he's saying is the offensive rebounds you're giving up in those dunker spots, those low opportunities that are immediately put back up, those seem to be a little bit more damaging as opposed to long offensive rebounds off of bricked opportunities from beyond the arc. Then those are going to happen through the course of play. So those aren't as damaging for the most part. And, of course, those offensive rebounds in the dunker spot kicked out to open shooters, those will damage you too. But Lakers did a pretty good job, the whole point here being, of negating some of the damage off of the offensive rebounds that Houston had. The Rockets have to do a way better job, and maybe having a guy like Kevin Durant out there that can actually knock down some perimeter shots is going to really help them in that regard. But it just brings me back to this. Look, you can play the zigzag if you want, and yesterday, if you did, you were 2-1. Of course, the lone loss there was the Toronto Raptors, who ended up not covering against the Cleveland Cavaliers despite losing in Game 1, so they failed to cover that matchup. They fall down 2-0 in that series. Tomorrow, by the way, we will have an update on the 2-0 series lead, team going down 2-0, going back home, and what that means for the first quarter and the first half. It's a very popular angle. We'll discuss it as we've been tracking that over the last couple of years. But the whole point here being is I'm very tempted by Lakers or nothing. First off, we don't know if Kevin Durant's going to be out there. Signs are pointing to that being the case, but the market has been wrong before about assuming whether or not a player is going to play. Even if he is out there, is he 100%? Is he healthy? I guess the blind play is just, hey, Rockets on the zigzag. They're going to be able to go out there and win by 6. But I just don't buy if that's going to be the case here between these two. So Lakers very much for me on the burner to see if whether or not I want to play that. Still toying with that fact of whether or not I want to grab 5. Because the other question is, if Kevin Durant, and I'm willing to take 5, even knowing that Durant's going to be out there, my question becomes, if Durant's ruled as active, does this go up to 6? Is the market kind of hedging its bet a little bit here with just hanging up a 5? I don't know if that's really the case. This seems to be full on. We believe Kevin Durant is playing, but we have seen it at times where you'll move that half point and maybe even a full point if that's going to be the case. But either way, Lakers, for me, front and center. We'll see if that's it. And the total, too, not a lot of really big indicators, but Durant's presence will help you score more. And so maybe even in a series, in a game that was very, very slow, only 92 possessions for the Lakers, 91 for the Rockets on Saturday, it's going to be a slow game. But if you're giving up offensive rebounds and they're actually going to capitalize on those, and you have a better half-court player in Durant, maybe you can get over the total as Game 1 fell under the closing number. With that, the two other games, I wanted to start actually with the Portland Trailblazers and the San Antonio Spurs. This is 5 p.m. Pacific time. 11.5 the number here at most spots, 11 at Circa with a total of 220.5. Game 1 had the Portland Trailblazers, couldn't get it done. Here we are again, San Antonio, and 11.5 is the number, and I think I'm going to go back to the well with the Portland Trailblazers. We hit on this briefly yesterday. One of the things I really like to do is, again, look at how the first game played out, just like everybody else does, and see if there's any discrepancies. Can these things happen again? Is what happened replicable? And I do think that the first thing that you gravitate toward for the San Antonio Spurs is their three-point shooting in this game. They shot 14 of 31 in non-garbage time. It's 45.2%. This is a team that shot just barely under 36% for the season at 35.9%. So first and foremost, do not expect that this San Antonio team is going to be able to shoot like that again against the Portland Trailblazers. The other is Portland did at least a pretty good job of keeping them pretty average within 4 feet of the basket. San Antonio took 25 shots within 4 feet of the basket. They shot only about 64% at the rim. So You did a pretty good job of keeping them pretty average, 27th percentile on that shooting rate within 4 feet of the basket. Did a pretty decent job of cutting off the paint. Didn't really give up any mid-range opportunities either. Short mid-range, you were pretty decent too. And you still have the size and the defensive capability to, I think, at least do that again if you're the Portland Trailblazers. The question becomes for Portland is whether or not you yourself can actually do something on offense. One of the troubling signs for Portland in that game against San Antonio was the fact that their offensive rating of 105.4, which is abysmal. We were talking about like 25th percentile or so. Even though you only turned it over on 11% of your possessions. So you weren't turning the ball over. You were just wildly inefficient with the way that you were operating that offense. And it's funny, even in the course of the game, you're watching them, and they've done this throughout the year, but you're watching Portland kick it out to open shooters, we'll call them, in Robert Williams, Donovan Clingan, and, of course, those guys didn't shoot particularly well. We saw Donovan Clingan go 0 for 3. We saw Robert Williams hit one of the three-point shots that he took. And even for Clingan, when you look at him as a shooter, that has been something he has worked on this year, and he has shot 34% from beyond the arc. But not exactly what you want to rely on. And they made a comment on the broadcast, like, well, you got to hit these open shots. Well, if your centers are the ones taking the perimeter shots, you're not really relying on that if you're Portland. So that is the worry, is will this three-point shooting actually work out for Portland? Will it level out? Or will the San Antonio Spurs continue to allow these bigs to float on the perimeter and take what comes with it? And then by extension, will Portland not be able to operate on offense? But I do think staying inside 11.5 is something that the Trailblazers can do here. And for our killer sports contest that we have, I only have one play. I've got to get 19 more before the first round is in. And I'll have 2 today, and it's going to be the Lakers and probably the Trailblazers. Maybe zagging when we should zig. No, either way, go to VSiN.com/subscribe. We got a lot of great content up there. It is draft week, so we have a ton of great content up there for the NFL draft. You see the nameless, faceless baseball player here if you watch it up at VSiN.com. The baseball content is absolutely tremendous. And as we inch closer to the Kentucky Derby betting guide up there, along with the AI-powered prop tools and more. Go to VSiN.com/subscribe. Full access through August 1st for only $59. That pretty much takes up the football season, folks. So check it out now at VSiN.com/subscribe. Let's head out to the Rocky Mountains. When we come back, Stormy Buonantony will join us. We get her thoughts on what she saw last night and what she's in store for today. Can the Avalanche continue their dominance? We'll find out. So you're listening to this podcast because you want an edge. But what if I told you you're only halfway there? You've got the mindset. Now it's time to get the toolkit to match. Here's the thing. Pro bettors spend thousands on data and tools. But what they don't want you to know is that you can get the same edge for a fraction of the cost with VSiN Pro. VSiN Pro gives you access to expert picks, public betting data, prop projections, powerful tools, analytics, and more. Just tap the link in the description and see why thousands of bettors are already using VSiN Pro to cash more bets.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the sports betting network.
All right, we have a lot to get to in a very little time, so let's immediately head out to the progressive guest line here and welcome in alleged host of this fine program, Stormy Buonantony, on the progressive guest line. She is out in, what are we at, Denver? Is that where we're at right now? I can't keep track of where you're at right now.
Yes, fresh off a plane, just got to the hotel a little bit ago in Denver for Kings Avs later on tonight. Congrats to you, by the way. Those hard-edged Euros coming up big in double overtime. There you go.
Yes, very true. The Carolina Hurricanes, what she's referring to, the team that she has slighted and insulted for many, many days and years. Let's see. I'm looking this up. How about this? With that victory, I am 5-6 in NHL best bets with a net unit of plus 0.1. How about that? So a winning hockey bettor, one could say.
For the entire 82-game season. Look at you.
Correct. That includes my 1-4 in futures, with the lone win being the Red Wings to miss the playoffs. But we don't have time to waste on hockey. We'll get back to the NHL here in a moment, but did want to play this because this is breaking news. I know a lot of people care about it. We finally heard from Mike Vrabel, a laughable matter, as he had said, between him and Diana Rossini. Well, he opened his press conference, Stormy. Now you've got thoughts on this. Let's hear from good old Mike, who had something to say today at media availability.
With that being said, I've had some difficult conversations with people that I care about, with my family, the organization, the coaches, the players. Those have been positive and productive. We believe in order to be successful on and off the field, you have to make good decisions. That includes me. That starts with me. We never want our actions to negatively affect the team. We never want to be the cause of a distraction. And those are comments and questions that I've answered for the team and with the team. We'll keep those private and, to ourselves. I care deeply about this football team, and I'm excited to coach them. I also know that I'm going to attack each day with humility and focus. And what I can promise you is that my family, this organization, the team, the staff, the coaches, everybody, our fans, most importantly, will get the best version of me going forward. And that's what I know, and I'm excited to do that. But I wanted to just address this and thank you for your patience in dealing with the private and personal matter.
All right, there we go. We move on. We're done. He has taken accountability, and everything is fine.
I wish our audience could have seen my face the whole time that sound was playing. Just like, what? The claiming to take accountability without actually saying anything of substance is wild to me. And it was just total word salad. I was texting you immediately after I saw this come through on Twitter and just said, if you don't come out here and unequivocally deny something when you have the opportunity to on the podium, you're just telling on yourself, which quite frankly sucks. And as a woman, especially that works in this space, for something like this to happen and come out and be, again, like nothing has been confirmed one way or another, but this is kind of like without saying it type of a thing. It really sucks. And it makes, I think, all of us in the profession look bad, even though it shouldn't have. The actions of one should not have the impact on what the actions of all are. But I think for a lot of men out there, this is what they already think of women that do my job or are insiders or are reporters in the sports media space. And it freaking sucks.
Yeah, get over it. All right, let's talk about the Colorado Avalanche and the Los Angeles Kings. We have a good series at hand potentially here. Colorado gets the first win, statistically not overtly dominant in this series so far. But what are your expectations? What's the thing that you were looking forward to most in this game 2 of this set?
Listen, you're the one who told me we had to talk about that. So, yes, let's get to what I wanted to discuss, shall we? I'm pumped for tonight's game, to be honest with you. I think the Avs, so it didn't quite look how I think others thought game 1 was going to look. And in the building, you could feel it was a little bit tense for Avs fans for a minute when it was still scoreless late into the second period. Glad for Logan O'Connor, by the way, after his first goal was taken away for goalie interference, he got one back. But the Kings did a pretty nice job defensively. Goaltending was good. I think just at the end of the day, one goal that's scored with 3 minutes to play isn't going to cut it against the Colorado Avalanche. And they've been the best team in the league since October for a reason. They're dominant. I know you love looking at the numbers, JVT. You dive into some of them coming out of this game, even with the result saying 2-1, the ice was tilted in favor of Colorado all night. Shots, shot attempts, scoring chances. They had a lot more rush pressure, 23 shot attempts off the rush, 4 odd man rushes to 17-1 for LA. They doubled up the Kings in slot passes to the inner slot, like everything that you're looking through. Colorado was just better than. And a big reason for that too isn't just their top end talent. It's the ability they have to roll 4 lines. It's waves of attacking, and they do it with pace and puck support. So I know DJ Smith came out and said LA needs to be more physical. They need to do a better job of creating, sustaining ozone time, forechecking better, saying all the right things. But can you put it into action against a team that has already swept you, by the way, in the regular season?
The way that this was played in game 1 with a 2-1 final, but you look at some of the underlying numbers, 20 total high danger chances between the two teams at even strength. Could this be a sneaky, higher scoring game than what we saw in game 1? Or is that just a symptom of, hey, these two teams were skating around, they're flying around, but we also get good goaltending, we're not going to get that high scoring affair tonight?
I don't see this being a high-scoring series personally. And I think part of that is because even though we know Colorado is one of the best goal-scoring teams in the NHL, and they're great on special teams too, right? The PK has really worked for them. When you look at what Los Angeles does defensively, they have the capabilities of playing so stingy. And yeah, you mentioned 2 good goaltenders that are on each side of the ice as well. But I feel like even with Colorado being a significantly stronger team than the Kings, they have a defensive attitude and grit to their game that I don't see a lot of these games really getting up there in goals.
All right, the first of your Tri-City tromp through our country was here in our lovely Vegas Valley. The Vegas Golden Knights are back on the ice tonight, taking on Utah. They are about $1.50 favorites here at Circa. Total is 6. So what do we take away from Game 1 that we spin forward here to Game 2 against the Mammoth?
Well, I think number one is that the series looks like it's going to be really chippy and physical. There seems to be a hatred there. I'm excited to see if we get more fireworks from Nick Dowd and Logan Cooley. The hit stuff, though, and we talked about this a little bit yesterday, it felt like Vegas did, as the game went on, start to out physical Utah a bit. And like the final hits numbers were Vegas 52, Utah 29. It was good, I think, for Utah to be able to step in and not back down from anything. But it was still pretty clear that Vegas had that edge throughout the course of a long game and throughout the course of a long series. I think that's something that's really going to benefit them. They are 8-0-1 now under John Tortorella. Tort's still tinkering with the lines as well. It appears, I was looking through Twitter and I saw some morning skate line rushes. Last game, they tried to load up the top line to start Game 1 with Mitch Marner, Jack Eichel, and Mark Stone all together. Separated them halfway through the game. Rushes today had Barbashev up on that top line with Eichel and Stone. Marner back at center with Brett Howden and Pavel Dorofeev. And I think that that's probably a better recipe for success for Vegas too. When you loaded up the top line, it's better in bursts if you want to get a little bit of momentum in a game, but I don't know if that's really sustainable throughout the course of a game or a series. But I think that's a proper price for Vegas when all is said and done right now.
All right, you're good at the emotion stuff, the narrative stuff. I so much am not, but I think this is something that is worth discussing, obviously. What is the follow-up for Boston and Buffalo in Game 2 after what we watched in that first game? I mean, that's an emotional downpour in that final period. You lose that game, you would expect to bounce back, but Buffalo's like a $1.75 favorite. Yeah,
it's Boston or nothing for me, I think, in this game. And it's not the same thing as college football, really, where it's an auto bet to take the other side after a big win like that. It feels like a clear letdown spot. Playoffs are so different. But knowing for Buffalo, it's their first playoff win in the city since 2011. The place went insane. Everybody's talking about the comeback and the way you did it with the 4 unanswered goals. This is one of those games where I really just want to wait and see, can they build on it or will they struggle to handle that success in the chaos? I don't know. So I wouldn't bet it, but I would say Bruins or pass.
All right, before we get you out of here, did you see what is making the rounds on social media, which is the Buc-ee's Overbite, the dark chocolate peanut butter quarter-pound, like peanut butter cup?
No.
Yeah.
But get in my belly. That sounds freaking unbelievable. Can we get one of those shipped to the Circa? What's going on here? Let's get the wheels in motion. I'm ready.
I've already ordered it because, we're done on Monday, Stormy, as you know. Yes. So so we might have some already ordered. And yes, I have enough to share. So that has been ordered. All right, Storm, have a good call later tonight. We won't bug you and we'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Yes, back in studio. Don't miss me too much.
Allegedly. We'll find out. Stormy Buonantony. Follow her up on X at Storm Buonantony. All right, we have a lot to get to in Major League Baseball. Adam Burke is going to join us in studio on the other side. His potential Rookie of the Year on the mound tonight. We'll see if our guy Messick can keep it going. And I've got a pitcher that we want to fade, another one to back. We'll talk about all of it when we come back here on Money Moves.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
I'd like to welcome you back to the program, Money Moves, here on the Vegas Stats and Information Network. I'm Jonathan Von Tobel, very professional television and radio host, and joining me here to my left at the desk, Adam Burke, who is our managing editor up at VSiN.com and our main baseball analyst outside of Jensen Lewis, former Major League Baseball pitcher and host of VSiN by the Books, will be joining us a little bit later in the program. Adam, how are you today?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. I appreciate that.
Good to be here, sir.
Thank you. We're going NPR. You got to mix it up. We got to go a little bit. I don't want to make our audience mad. I listen to NPR every once in a while. Okay, I'm just going to say it every once in a while. All right. So baseball season's underway. your boys have a pretty fun series at hand. Really, it's all about Parker Messick. We've talked about him a lot on the show. We got an angry tweet at one point from somebody who was like, "Why did you talk about Parker Messick?" And I was like, brother, I think I'm like the only person on the network that's been bringing him up because we've talked to him about it with you, and we brought it up on Pod of the Futures. So he's, I don't want to call him a hefty guy, but he's a pretty thick, stout dude. He has been absolutely fantastic. For those who haven't watched him yet, we brought him up to Chris Jimenez last week when we had him on, and he was starting that day as well. Messick has been absolutely fantastic. ERA, are we still at like 0.25 with him right now?
105.
105? Okay, all right. So we're at 105 right now for him.
He did have the 2 runs charged to him in the no-hitter last week. That's
got it. Okay, that's why I didn't think that he did. So 105 ERA over the course of 25 2/3 and 4 starts. So I guess the open-ended question is, it's 2 parts. It's, has the market caught up with him from a pricing standpoint? And do you think this is sustainable? He's 7-1 to win AL Rookie of the Year.
So I'll start with the first question. I do think the market has caught up.
Okay.
I think the market is very much aware that this kid is clearly Cleveland's best starting pitcher so far this season. Gavin Williams has been good from a numbers standpoint, but a lot of walks. Some of the underlying metrics definitely look a little bit concerning with him. Look, Messick, 105 ERA, 268 expected, 251 FIP. Those are all really good numbers, even with some regression coming, and I think it'll come a little bit to some degree today, which we can talk about in a minute. But 91.4% left on base percentage, very unsustainable. 200 batting average on balls in play against, very unsustainable, even inducing a lot of weak contact. But there's a few things here, right? 133 2/3 last year in the minor leagues. Did throw 39 2/3 at the MLB level. So, a guy that can get you up to 130 innings, is that enough to win Rookie of the Year? I don't know. He's going to have to stay healthy. The other thing is, it's very difficult for a pitcher to win Rookie of the Year because position players are out there every single day, right? Pitchers are going to go every 5 or 6 days. A lot of young arms like a Messick, they're going to have a little bit of an innings restriction in the second half as you get into September. And if Cleveland is in playoff position, then that's something else that they're going to keep in mind with Messick, who right now at least starts game 2, probably would start game 1. So that's something that they're going to think about. They don't really push young pitchers all that far. So I think it's very difficult for him in this situation and by virtue of being a pitcher to win Rookie of the Year.
So a lot of people, I think, would immediately go to, well, what are you talking about? Paul Skeens won Rookie of the Year. But I think the rebuttal to that is that was a highly touted prospect who a lot of people were just chomping at the bit to get out there, had the narrative behind him. And even though he came up late, a little late, he was somebody that I think, much like Victor Wembanyama, people wanted to vote for him to win Rookie of the Year. So the second he showed the stuff that was comparable for the award, they were willing to give it to him, right?
Right. Plus, he threw a lot of innings, a guy who missed a ton of bats, right? He's dominant. Parker Messick is really, really good. From a command standpoint, he's fantastic. He's not really a dominant guy, though, that kind of, grabs headlines like that in the Rookie of the Year market, where he's probably going to wind up with, depending on how far he goes, 160, 170 strikeouts, something like that. Those are not Paul Skeensian numbers. Yeah. So that's the thing that I think is going to hold him back a little bit.
So there's a method to the madness here. It's not just because you like Cleveland, but one of your plays today is a total in the Guardians-Astros game, and I would assume it does tie into maybe some of that regression you're talking about here for Messick?
Yeah, so look, for Parker Messick, again, phenomenal season so far. Like I said, 105 ERA, 269 expected ERA, 251 FIP. It doesn't take much for regression to raise your ERA with those kinds of numbers. However, he threw 112 pitches in his quest to try and finish off that no-hitter last week. Went 8 no-hit innings. Cleveland still hasn't had a no-hitter since 1981, Lenny Barker's perfect game. But that was a lot. It was a lot of up and down for him, a lot of pitches that he threw. I kind of thought they'd figure out a way to maybe push him back a day. They didn't. He's going on the regular 4 days rest here in this one. That surprises me a little bit, although, Slade Ciccone was terrible yesterday. Yeah. Maybe they'll bring up Logan Allen at some point, maybe go 6-man rotation, stretch things out a little bit. But the fact that Messick doesn't have an extra day, going up against a very right-handed heavy lineup, so a lot of platoon advantages here for Houston in this game tonight. The only lefty is probably going to be Yordan Alvarez. So I think it's going to be a little bit tricky for Messick, but also Ryan Weiss, who's going to get the start for Houston here. A lot of pitches. Guy that, a lot of strikeouts, a lot of walks, a lot of hard contact against. Cleveland, throughout most of the season, has led the league in pitches per plate appearance because they have a lot of platoon advantages as well. So I think that both of these offenses have the chance for some success tonight. Both bullpens have been very bad, especially of late here. And also a very rare thing in Cleveland, and this is why this total's gone up from 8 to 8.5 with juice on the over. Wins out of the South. Generally speaking, the winds come out of the north and northwest in Cleveland because they come off the lake. Today, they're coming from the south, which is not on the lake side. So the ball should carry a lot better in Cleveland tonight. That's a big reason why we've seen this total go from 8 to 8.5 with overjuice. I still like over 8.5 personally, but if we happen to touch 9, I wouldn't play that.
We've talked a lot about the Astros and their futility at this point to start the year, but the lone point of non-futility is Yordan Alvarez and the way that he's played up to this point. He's plus 360, the second choice on the board to win American League MVP. So I blew Mitch Moss's mind. We recorded Pod to the Futures last night. Well, because I brought this up to him, and I blew my own mind a little bit here too, because I knew the basic fact of Mike Trout had won an MVP when the Angels had a losing record. You have a very deep baseball mind. Do you remember how many games they won the year he won MVP and they had a losing record?
Was it 76, 74?
Good call,
like
74.
Yeah.
So that's my question is, what kind of a season does Yordan Alvarez have to negate what is probably going to be a poor season for the Astros record-wise?
It has to be a monster season. Now, he's on pace to do that, but there's a couple of things here, right? First of all, the guy only played 48 games last year, right? Had under 200 plate appearances. Also, he's a designated hitter. He's not going to play the outfield a whole lot for this team because they can't really afford to lose him. The only way they can win games right now is if they score 6+ runs because the pitching staff has been so bad and there are so many injuries there. Alvarez, so far this season, 6 games played in left field. It's incredibly difficult to win that award as a DH, right? I know Shohei Ohtani's a DH when he's in the lineup, but he also pitches, and that's why he winds up winning the award and probably should win it every single year until he retires. Alvarez is a designated hitter, right? So that's going to cut into his WAR number because he's going to have a positional adjustment where he's not playing the field. And when he's out there, he's not a good outfielder anyway. So I don't think it's possible. I really don't. I mean, he could go off and hit maybe 55, 60 home runs, something like that. And people will still ding him for being a DH on a team that probably has a losing record. Yeah. So I don't see it happening.
All right. What about then? I mean, in general, I feel like Judge, I guess he's the rightful favorite at plus 175, but he's not exactly having the season that would blow you away to this point. Would you look at somebody, is there a name that sticks out to you to win American League MVP, or at least just the best player in the American League right now? Mike Trout seems too easy. I just don't trust that he would be able. First off, I don't trust that he's going to stay healthy as much as I would love for that to happen. And again, if part of the point of contention is, are you going to win enough games? They've lost 3 straight. They're going to be like a 78-win team.
Right.
Is he going to win a second MVP on a team that has less than 80 wins? I would highly doubt that's the case.
So, look, this is a guy who I think maybe he's kind of getting his flowers now from the baseball community, but it's very difficult for him to win the MVP. Jose Ramirez at 22-1 is going to get very interesting, I think, this season because Cleveland is better offensively. Their expected metrics suggest they should be doing better. The weather has definitely not helped them. Also, several guys have hit the ball hard, run into bad luck. Kyle Manzardo, Bo Naylor, among others. If this lineup does get deeper, Travis Bazzana is going to come up at some point, right? That's the potential for Jose Ramirez to score more runs. He's already stolen 10 bases this season. He's already hit, I think, 5 or 6 home runs. And he got off to a horrific start. Very, very slow start. There's a scenario in which if Cleveland does win this division again, I don't think that they will, but if they do, Jose Ramirez, at some point the voters have to go, this team is nothing without him.
Yeah.
Like the pitching is good, but this offense is nothing without him. He's going to hit probably 30 home runs. He's going to steal 30 or 40 bases. He's kind of reaching some Hall of Fame level thresholds too. Maybe there's a point where the voters go, you know what? This guy kind of deserves one. He's been top 5, top 10 in the award several years in a row now. If you get a pedestrian year from Judge, and that's, of course, pedestrian by his standards, right? Bobby Witt Jr. has no help in that lineup whatsoever. He's been on base a bunch and barely scored. Gunnar Henderson is good, but I don't know how good Baltimore is. And Trout, I mean, what a start he's off to, as you know, but can he stay healthy for 140 or some games? You're kind of getting to the point where process of elimination gives Ramirez a better shot this year than he's had in previous seasons.
Couldn't agree more. It's why the market seems a little flawed here at the top, and we'll see. And Judge right now, walk rate is down, strikeout rate is up. He's only hitting 230. He's got the 9 dongs so far, but I mean, outside of that, it's been a down year for him so far. Not a down year though for the sharp plays, and the sports calendar never stops. Sharp Plays covers it all. They've been winning for 15 straight years. All of it documented, logs posted publicly at sharpplays.com. That kind of transparency rare in this industry. When the Sharp Plays moves, the sports books take notice. Advanced AI, trusted insider intel. They find the value before the numbers shift. Respected, watched, feared. Start winning with them at sharpplays.com. Adam's going to stick around for one more, as he usually does on this day. A lot more baseball to get to. I have a couple observations about bullpens that I wanted to ask you about, because we have a lot of moving parts at the back end of a ton of these bullpens. It's injuries, it's poor play. How does it affect some of these games? And, of course, we have a litany of other best bets that you've got in the VSiN article, and a little bit on the NFL draft before we get you out of here, too. So don't go anywhere. It's Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Adam Burke still alongside. We have a lot left to get to in Major League Baseball. Really quick, though, before we get back to some hardball, the NFL draft coming up on Thursday. There's a ton of content up on the website at VSiN.com. I was just reading Matt Euman's article. He's got his best bets for the NFL draft up on the website right now. And I know that you authored a piece or two up on the website, too.
Yeah, Humans with a mock draft. Yeah. So, last year I think he did a 1.0 and a 2.0. This year,
silver bullet, right?
There's really not much of a reason to do a 1.0 and a 2.0 just because of how things are kind of shaking out and the expectation that there's probably going to be a lot of trades this year too. But yeah, I got some best bets up over there that I think are, at least worth considering. And look, I will say this. As much as I try to drive people to VSiN.com because I'm the managing editor over there and it's what I want to do, the NFL draft is just so much better equipped for real time and being able to talk about it on the broadcast, especially with the way that the odds just move around so ridiculously fast, because there's going to be some report that comes out, some beat writer that gets played like a fiddle by some agent, and then all of a sudden the market's going to move, even though it has no business moving. There's a lot of stuff that's very hard to write about for the draft. So I definitely encourage everybody, to stay tuned to the VSiN broadcast channel, however you view it, however you consume it, however you listen to it. Because in real time, that's when a lot of the good draft betting analysis is going to come out.
Speaking of being fooled potentially, or at least being used by sources, did you see Ian Rappaport's tweet the other day about the Cowboys?
Oh, yeah, I saw it this morning, right? Yeah.
About how generally the Cowboys get these deals done very quickly.
I loved your quote tweet of it, Bart, that somebody you retweeted who quote tweeted it.
This is worse than what Rossini did, which is very, very funny. So we don't want to give it all away, but go to VSiN.com. Ton of great content up there. We'll be live during the draft as well here at VSiN as well. Yep. So to your point about being live, check out the Vegas Stats and Information Network. Obviously, you can go to VSiN.com, sign up there. We're on YouTube TV, all sorts of platforms as well.
And look, something I will say is that you're better off, instead of kind of paying attention to a lot of these news reports and all that, you're better off looking at kind of the tendencies that these teams have had in the past, right? The types of players that they look to go after. Is there some sort of, age formula that they use? Do they not like to take older players? Would they prefer to take younger players? Something in terms of like spark scores or, maybe different events at the combine that teams value a little bit more. That's the stuff that I would look at, as opposed to, this race to news, this race to clicks, all these kinds of things. Because remember, there's a lot of draft analysts out there and some who are very, very good at what they do. But when you talk about somebody like a Rappaport or some of the, league-wide beat reporters, they haven't had a whole lot to do for a while. Yeah. So they want to be really engaged in what's happening with the draft and may not, fully vet things and stuff like that. So you want to look at what these teams do, what kind of their MO is from a draft standpoint. So, like, for example, I think one of the plays that I have in the article is that the Rams' position of first drafted player offensive lineman at 2-1, we'll see if they wind up staying at 13. This is only the second time in Sean McVay's tenure that he's had a first-round pick as the head coach of the Rams. But they've taken some of their skill guys in the second, third, fourth, fifth rounds. They've gotten Puka Nacua later, Kyron Williams later, Blake Corum was a third-round pick, stuff like that. I think they're okay finding skill position guys further down the board. So maybe they do look for a trenches-type player, much like they did with Jared Verse back in 2024. So I think offensive lineman is a good bet there. Just, again, kind of looking at what their history has been. Sure, they haven't had a first-round pick, but I think they trust their scouting and evaluation department to find those skill guys further in the draft.
So you and I are friends, and I think I'm a very good person. I get along with everybody behind the glass.
Glad you admitted that.
And,
publicly, I appreciate that.
We hit it off almost immediately when you joined the crew here. So we share a lot in common. And one of the things that we share in common is our disdain for the Cincinnati Reds and their lineup, which has been abysmal despite the fact that they play in a ballpark which should help them out immensely here. So your disdain for the Cincinnati Reds today has translated into a play of sorts. Steven Matz ties to Las Vegas, former 51 when they were the 51s, taking on Burns and the Reds. How are we going to handle this? Are we going side? Are we going total? Or are we going player prop?
Yeah, so, I mentioned this yesterday on a numbers game with Gil Alexander, and of course I was on the Rays yesterday. They lose 6-1, had no chance of getting there, but I am committed to losing money fading this Reds team in one way or another. I think the regression is coming. That's what I'm going to call it. That's what I'm going to write about. They are overperforming in so many different ways. 6-0 in one-run games. I think they're 4-0 in two-run games, stuff like that. But the way I'm looking to fade them today, because I don't really want to go up against Chase Burns. Chase Burns got phenomenal stuff, throws very, very hard, a guy who can be extremely dominant. But as you mentioned, this lineup is not very good. And the Rays acquired Steven Matz. They signed him in the offseason. And anytime the Rays do something, I'm expecting somebody to get better, right? Whether it's a position player or a pitcher. They're going to do something with the arsenal, something with the pitch usage, change something around. Well, in the case of Matz, he's throwing fewer sinkers, throwing more changeups. Shape of his slider has changed a lot this season as well. He's been able to generate a lot more swing and miss, and I think that's something that he could carry over here against the Reds lineup that's been really bad against left-handed pitching so far this season. Small sample size, but they have struck out over 27% of the time. Matz is a guy throughout the course of his career, pretty good pitch efficiency, doesn't walk a lot of guys, will give up some hard contact, but right now he's got a little bit more swing and miss based on his pitch mix, and I think that's something he could use to his advantage here today. So played Matz over 5.5 strikeouts at plus money. It was plus 125 at DraftKings this morning. I think he's got a chance to get the 6+. Only one start at home in that climate-controlled environment at Tropicana Field. Struck out 7 Yankees over 5 innings. Second start coming at the Trop here today. Doesn't have to worry about the cold or anything like that. I think Matz gets some swing and miss here. I like over 5.5 strikeouts against the Reds.
All right, and I will ask you this before we get to your other play. Because in baseball, it is, I think, a war of attrition to the point of this being a large sample size sport. You do have to have that stubbornness, right? When you feel like you have an angle, and some of these metrics will show you. And I always go back to, you'll probably remember the year because you have a mind for this. There was like 6 years ago, the Texas Rangers were just ripping off one-score games like crazy. And even though you kept trying to fade them, it just wasn't really working. So even over the course of 162 games, you could still get screwed by some variance. You've got to have some metal here, though, because I would agree with you. Like some of these angles, you got to keep playing on them until the evidence backs it up that it's not going to happen, even if the results aren't there. Like there is some sort of steel will that you have to have here. Yeah,
the Rangers were a team that I lost a lot of money on. I believe that was 2021, I want to say.
Somewhere in that range, they were ridiculous because the next year they fell completely off because you knew that they had I think I'm ballparking it, but they were in the range of like 38 and 16 in one-run games. It was absolutely insane.
Yeah, it was crazy. Maybe it was 2023 that it happened. But either way, it was the one-run record that really did things for them. And also, when you looked at that bullpen on paper, you were like, this group isn't great. It's kind of the same thing with the Reds, where Emilio Pagan is not a major league closer. I don't know if they like him in that role because he's a veteran or whatever. Maybe Graham Ashcraft can be. Maybe Tony Santillan could be. But, that's not a bullpen that I expect to keep winning all these one-run games. So when you have an offense that's bottom 5 in most categories, I mean, Sal Stewart is the only guy doing anything, it feels like, for that offense. And he's been phenomenal, by the way. I don't know if he's odds on now to win NL Rookie of the Year or not, but he's been really, really good and has carried that team. Pitchers adjust to rookies and adjust to young guys. So that's probably something that we will see going forward with Stewart.
Sal Stewart, plus 150, the favorite, but not odds on yet. Nolan McClain at plus 275, Connor Griffin 850, JJ Weatherholt 9-1. Then you get
Nolan McClain is like watching a video game.
Yes. Well, I'll
his
say this.
Stuff is insane.
I don't know if he's going to have the stuff here because they're kind of they leave him off, they don't start him the days that they face lefties. And this is why I love playing fantasy baseball because you get some of these diamonds in the rough. Moises Ballesteros for the Cubs has been awesome at catcher. So for those who haven't seen him yet, go check him out because he's been hitting the ball extremely well, still over 300, and he looks like he's got almost all the tools for him. So he's 11-1 now. He's got risen up the ranks.
A lot of violent contact from him.
Yes. So I brought up the Rangers, too. There's always a method to the madness here. The brain's always working because Carmen McGinsky is going to get the start against the Texas Rangers today, and he has been pitching extremely well. I have yet to get confirmed, maybe you have it, who's going to start for Texas. But either way, we're looking at a near pick here at Circa, minus 108, minus 104. It is the Pirates who are dogs here. What are you looking at?
I give you a lot of credit for getting McGinsky.
We actually talked about this last week.
It does not look like that.
No, it does not. Not at all.
But so the Pirates, it's not just Paul Skeens, right? I mean, Paul Skeens just has an elite level of talent, but Bubba Chandler looks pretty good. Braxton Ashcraft looks really good. And now McGinsky's the next guy in line who's actually looking really, really strong here.
It's sick how much
for this Pirates team. And if they get any kind of offense, like they can sustain this because they've really done a good job developing pitching internally. I think it's going to be Kumar Rocker who gets the start here for the Rangers tonight. That's what everyone kind of seems to be pointing to, even though you'll still see TBD in some places. Yeah. Both of these guys, pretty extreme ground ball guys. Globe Life Field down in Texas, very, very good ballpark for ground ball pitchers. Good ballpark for pitchers in general. The ball doesn't carry, but I don't know if it's like the thickness of the carpet that they use for the infield or what, but it's very good to be a ground ball guy there. The problem is with a guy like Kumar Rocker, because he throws a lot of sinker slider, he's very susceptible to platoon advantages. Lefties are going to hit him. Lefties hit him last year. Lefties are off to a good start this year. All of the guys performing offensively right now for Pittsburgh, 3 of them are left-handed. Ryan O'Hearn, O'Neill Cruz, Brandon Lau. Another one is a switch hitter in Brian Reynolds, who's going to be batting left-handed here. So I think it's a good advantage for the Pirates in this one. Texas's bullpen kind of in a bit of a state of flux right now due to some injuries as well, even though they've been quite good this season and were very good last year. But I think the Pirates are worthy of a play here tonight based on this pitching matchup and because I think it does favor their lineup quite a bit.
We didn't get to all the plays, left some meat on the bone, so check it out up at VSiN.com. You and your buddies can share it, just like you can use Cut, the social betting platform with your buddies that lets you bet directly against them and other users on sports, politics, pop culture, even personal bets. Use promo code VSiN to get a 20% deposit bonus on your first deposit. Cut, KUTT.com, or in the App Store. Use promo code VSiN. Adam, thank you very much. Again, VSiN.com. Check it out. Second hour, a lot left to get to when Colucci joins us next.